Well, like Ryan said, if you've been with us the whole series, and some of us have, if you hadn't, you can go back and watch them on YouTube because they're all up there, almost. We're working on the last weeks, but it'll be up there today. So you can go back and check the entire series out. But the very first lesson in this series was define the relationship. And that's what we've been doing for the last 6 lessons. And tonight we come to kind of the conclusion of the first part of this book we're going through. And the title is The Relationship Defined. So we've kind of went full circle. And now this is kind of a summary, but it also has a little bit of some new information in it as well. So I'm going to be in Matthew 7. 13 through 23 in just a minute, and when we get to that point, the scripture is on the back of your listening sheet. So that helps you out there. But the question I've got here at the start is, how have you ever unknowingly been traveling on the wrong road? Anybody? Good story. Anybody? I mean, it's open conversation here. Anybody? Oof. You going anywhere. True story. Always on the wrong road. Always going in the wrong direction. Anybody else? Ryan, do you have something? Anybody? Okay, go ahead.
Kind of long, but whenever I first got to Union, my parents had just bought a place on the Tennessee River, and so I was going to surprise them one weekend and drive down there with my friend, whose parents were down there too. And the only bad thing, I had the address, but that was before the day of the smartphone, at least before I had a smartphone, so I had it in my Garmin. Those things were good and get you in the general vicinity, but not to the actual location.
They weren't very updated.
And so we get to a road, and it said, your destination is on your right. There was nothing there, and I knew that wasn't right. And so we started just turning down all these back roads at the Tennessee River, and I remember that it had something to do with Eagle. I didn't know what. But there was like, every road down there is named Eagle. Eagle Landing,
Eagle Point.
Eagle Way. I mean, every single road is Eagle Landing. And so we got lost on back roads around the river for about 2 hours. It started getting dark. We were crossing creeks and dead ending into people's yards, and there was no
cell service. That's right.
I couldn't even call and say like, hey, we were trying to surprise you, but we got lost. I couldn't even do that. Eventually, by the grace of God, found where we were going. But yeah, wrong road.
Wrong road, man. So I got a couple. One of them is not actually about me, but it's about my buddy. But there's a few of them went to St. Louis a few years ago, and they're like me. They're pretty cheap. They don't want to spend the night when they go to St. Louis. So what happens is you end up driving up there, staying for the game, and then you drive all the way back home. So you're driving really late at night. And they left about 11 o'clock from St. Louis. And we're kind of swapping around driving. They put another guy in there driving, and everybody fell asleep. And my buddy woke up he said at 2:30, 3 o'clock, somewhere in that range, thinking, well, we've got to be about home by now. And when he looked up, he saw the sign, and it said Memphis, 2 miles. And what happens is, if you're going down I-55, there's one turnoff to take you to Dyersburg and get you back to Lexington. And if you miss it, you go straight down to Memphis. And then you got to go from Memphis all the way back home. So they didn't end up getting home till almost 5 in the morning, all because they missed that one sign, because they wasn't paying attention. And the other one was me and Corey were out with our wives shopping in Jackson. And we dropped them off over at the Kohl's, because, that was, where they wanted to go, and we didn't want to go. And we were going to head over to the Best Buy, because we're real smooth. So I pulled out on the road going to Best Buy, and I'm just sitting there talking to Corey, and I said, look at this moron right here. He's going the wrong way. And I said, look at this guy. He's about to hit me right here. And I had pulled in the wrong lane. I was pulling straight into traffic instead of in the lane going opposite of the traffic, and the cars were coming at me. I was the moron in the wrong lane. But you see what happened was the signs were there that I was going the wrong way, but I was just bebopping along, man. I thought, I got it on cruise control. I'm good, no problem. I just missed all the signs. And sometimes that's what happens to us, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight is we get on the road and we kind of get on this path where we feel like we're going the right direction. We feel like we're doing what God's called us to do. Feel like everything's great. We just kind of put it in cruise control and just keep on going. And we miss the signs that, hey, maybe you're going the wrong way. Maybe you're on the wrong path. And if you don't watch yourself and if you're not careful, you never get back on the right path. And that's what we're talking about tonight. This is one of the most frightening parts of Scripture in the entire Gospels, because this is one of those where you got a lot of people that I feel like fall into this category. And the verses 21 through 23 is, it'll scare you to death. It scares me to death every time I read it. It's just tough. But we're going to start in verse 13. It says, "Enter through the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the road is broad that leads to destruction, and there are many who go through it. How narrow is the gate and difficult the road that leads to life, and few find it. Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravaging wolves. You'll recognize them by their fruit. Are grapes gathered from their thorn bushes, or figs from their thistles? In the same way, every good tree produces good fruit, but a bad tree produces bad fruit. A good tree can't produce bad fruit, neither can a bad tree produce good fruit. Every tree that doesn't produce good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. So you'll recognize them by their fruit. Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father in heaven. On that day, many will say to me, 'Lord, Lord, didn't we prophesy in your name, drive out demons in your name, and do many miracles in your name?' Then I will announce to them, 'I never knew you. Depart from me, you lawbreakers.'" Heavy stuff. So what we're going to see tonight, as we kind of finish up this part of defining the relationship, is what it's going to take to truly define your relationship as a follower of Jesus and not just a fan of Jesus. The first thing we see when we talk about that, and the very first thing you see on the sheet, is the relationship is defined by what you do, not what you say. What you do, not what you say. So a recent survey I read about Americans stated that almost all Americans in this survey that was taken, it was like 20,000 people took this survey, so I guess they think that's good enough sample size of the survey, stated that the number one thing that was most important to them was their health. That was the number one thing that was most important to them, was their health, and to be healthy and to stay healthy. A week later, they sent the same 20,000 people another survey, and they asked them, they said, "What is your favorite thing to eat?" And the most three were pizza, cheeseburgers, and French fries. And the second question was on there was, what is the one thing that you most dislike having to do? Exercise. So you got a bunch of people that say the most important thing in their life is to be healthy and stay healthy and live a healthy lifestyle, but at the same time, their two most favorite things to eat are cheeseburgers and fries, and their least favorite thing to do is to exercise. So what does that tell us? It tells us that we're pretty good at saying stuff, but we're not real good at doing stuff. Is that right? Reminds me a lot of my kids. Sometimes you can tell my kids to clean out the dishwasher. And what do they say? "I'm going to do it." And then you can tell them an hour later, "Hey, clean that dishwasher." "I'm going to do it." Yeah, I'm going to do it. 2 hours later, after the dishwasher's already cleaned out, "Hey, you going to clean out that dishwasher?" Yeah, I'll do that later." "Can't do it. I've already done it for you." "Oh, okay. That's cool. That's good." And I wonder sometimes if Jesus is sitting there looking at us and saying, "You know what? How many more times am I going to have to tell you to do something before you actually do it? How many more times am I going to have to say, 'Hey, I need you to serve in this area,' and you look back at me and say, 'Hey, I got you. I'm going to do it,' before you actually just do it? How many more times is Jesus going to have to look at you and say, 'Hey, this is where I want you to be,' or 'this is where I want you to go,' and you're finally going to stop saying, 'I'm going to do that,' and you're actually going to step forward and do what He's called you to do? That's moving from being a fan to a follower. When you actually step forward and say, 'Hey, you know what? I'm tired of saying I'm going to do something, and I'm going to do it.'" Now, let's say next month we're going to be going on a few mission trips. All right. I'm going to be gone for a week. My wife's going to be gone a couple different times. There's going to be a few different times that we've got some stuff going right here, right? Now, let's say we get somebody come over to house sit for us. Let's say Matt's going to come house sit for us while we're gone, right? That'd be a good gig for you, Matt. You'll be hanging out at the house, no problem. It's all good. So let's say before I leave, I take a book And I write down like 4 or 5 pages of stuff that you need to do. You got to water the plants, feed the dog, turn the pool filter on, take the trash out, all these things. Give you all these instructions. And I say, hey, Matt, you got it, right? You say, yeah, I got that. No problem. You give me the instructions. It's easy. And then I come home 2 weeks later, and the pool's green, the trash is piled up, dog hadn't been fed, plants are dead, everything's gone. You'd be like, oh, yeah, I read your book. I read it. I can tell you exactly what it says. I've studied it hard. I've paid a lot of attention to it. Read everything there was. I know everything there was about that. That's great. But guess what? I'm probably not going to say, well done, faithful servant. I'm probably going to say, hey, get out. Because you didn't do what I told you to do. You know? You didn't do it. You've left this thing in terrible shape. And that's the same thing that God's saying to us. He's saying, look, I gave you the instructions. I told you what to do. It's easy. Simple. All you got to do is do it. And then you come down here and you say, well, hey, I can tell you what all it said. I can tell you how to do it. But there's no evidence. There's no fruit. There's no anything that actually shows you anything about that. Oh, I thought that guy was coming in. It scared me. Anyway, sorry. Somebody walked by. It kind of scared me a little bit there for a second. It's all good. So, James said it this way in chapter 2 and 14. He said, what good is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can his faith save him? If a brother or sister is without clothes and lacks daily food, and one of you says to them, go in peace, keep warm and eat well, but doesn't give them what the body needs, what good is it? If God's called us to serve somebody, and we say, hey, we know you need that coat, but we'll pray for you. We'll pray that you stay warm tonight. Instead of actually giving them the coat, is that truly a follower of Jesus? Food for thought. Second thing we see here, kind of basing on this same thing, these first two kind of almost tie in together, but I wanted to separate them just because they are a little different. It says the relationship is defined by faith and not by feelings. It's defined by faith and not by feelings. It says feelings, sure, you feel good about it, right? It reminds me a lot of a commercial I used to see on TV a lot when I was watching. I can't remember what I used to watch, but this commercial came on every night. And it was for the ASPCA or something. They had all these little dogs on there. And they were all so sad. And they had Sarah McLachlan on there singing The Arms of an Angel. Oh, it just broke you, man. It broke you right to the heartstrings, And boy, I tell you what, that just made me feel, man, it made me feel bad. And I thought, man, I'm going to pray for them. Man, I'm going to pray for the dogs. I'm going to pray somebody take care of them, because I'm not going to take care of them, because, never mind. We'll just leave it at that. But just because you feel that doesn't help anybody, right? See, your faith is not set up on just a feeling. Your faith will not get you anywhere on just a feeling. Now, the word that it used in here that was interesting that I thought, it talked about a belief, and we hear that a lot about belief. What do you believe in? Come on in here, Heather. And what's interesting was if I said I believed I could jump off this building, I feel like if I jump off the building, I'd be okay. Now, do I have any evidence to prove that to be accurate? No. I'm probably going to hurt myself, right? Right? So just because believing something doesn't make it true. But what it says right here, what I thought was very interesting is, if I feel that I know Jesus and I believe in Him, but I don't have any evidence in my life to back that up, I don't have any proof that when I walk out that door right there, that when I get on that path, that I'm on the same wide path that everybody else in this world is, just because I believe it, if I don't have anything to actually prove that faith, if I don't have any proof or evidence to show that, then I'm on the same path with every other person out there, whether I believe that I am or not. We got a lot of people that walk around believing that they're different, but they're living the same way that everybody else lives. They're doing the same thing that everybody else does. They're going about their business, they're going about the way they live, no different than anybody out there. But they think they're different because they believe that they're different. They believe that because they feel maybe a little different, or they feel a little bit more about Jesus, or they feel like they know Jesus a little bit, that all of a sudden they're a little bit better off. And the truth is, they're on the same path with all the unbelievers. I mean, that's a heavy thing to say, and it's a heavy thing to think about, but it's the truth. They're not any different than anybody else, because if you don't have the evidence or proof in your life to show that Jesus has really changed you or really made your life different, then you may be on the wide road and not the narrow path. If you read back up there, it says, the road that is broad and leads to destruction, that many go through it. Many. But it says, how narrow is the gate and difficult the road that leads to life, as few find it. It tells me that there's a lot of us out here that feel like we're doing what we're doing, but we're just going through the motions and we're not actually getting to where we want to get. So we see that the relationship is defined by what you do, not what you say, and the relationship is defined by faith, not by feelings. But the third thing we see is that the relationship is not defined by action only. Not defined by action only. Now, this is one that I'm sure you get a lot of debate on. There's a lot of people who believe that you can work your way into heaven, but you just can't. The reality says that's not something that's possible. But if you look back up in verse 22, I believe it says, on that day many will say to me, Lord, Lord, didn't we prophesy in your name, drive out demons in your name, and do many miracles in your name? Now, how many of y'all in here have drove out a demon? I haven't, but I'm just asking y'all. How many of y'all performed miracles? Anybody? Nobody? Now, I've seen some miracles. What I felt was a miracle, but, I've never performed any miracles, right? How many people in here will say, though, man, I was at the church every time the doors were open. I was there Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. Yeah, okay. Man, I served on the committees. I served on a couple different committees, helped them out. I helped at VBS. I showed up on Wednesday night and helped them sing, helped them do sound. I went out on a mission project one time, did that. And that's all good. And those actions are great. But those actions alone won't get you on the narrow path. Those actions, while that is what we're called to do, if that's not being driven to you by your intimate knowledge and faith in Jesus Christ and what He's directing your life and the way He's telling you to go, then those are just a futile spinning of the wheels. We learned that a few months ago in Ecclesiastes, the word futile. I pronounced it wrong the entire time till the last day. My wife finally corrected me. She held off to the last day to correct me, but it was fine. But it's the truth. We can do all these actions and we can get caught up in all these things. And man, we feel like we're on the right spot. We feel like we're in that car going the right way. And we're going the wrong direction. We're going on the wrong road. We've not took the right turn off. We've missed the sign. And that's the struggle. And the hardest struggle, and I don't want anybody to think, and this is really hard, and it's been hard on me, because I don't want anybody to think that I'm questioning anybody's salvation, because I'm not. If you believe within your heart of hearts that you ask Jesus Christ to come into your life, to save your sins and to be the direction of your life, and proclaim that out, walk through believer's baptism, I am certainly not ever going to question that. I'll never question that. But that's not enough. That's enough to get you to heaven, but it's not enough to have an intimate relationship with Jesus Christ here on this earth. What you have to do here on this earth is then allow Him to actually be the one that directs everything that you do, to be the one that actually pushes you forward and pushes you into places and takes you further than you could ever take yourself. Takes you further than what you could ever think. We close with the last one. The relationship is defined not only by knowing Jesus, but also by Jesus knowing you. I spoke on this a while back about this idea. We hear this so often, and it's such over and over. Do you know Jesus? Do you know Jesus? Do you know Jesus? Do you know Jesus is your Savior? Do you know Jesus? But we never hear many people talk about, well, does Jesus know you? Does He know you? Does He know your heart? Does He see the evidence that you've put out? And that's a difficult question to answer. It kind of reminded me of a time many years ago, and my wife, she probably won't remember this, but she might. But I used to be really, really, really addicted to Tennessee football. Okay? Now, I still love Tennessee football. I watch it every week. But now, I used to be like down home Tennessee football. And in 2008, we had the great Lane Kiffin as our head coach. And he spurned us in the middle of the night to go to USC. And I just got engulfed in the coaching search. Just engulfed in it. I was sitting in my chair, and I had my laptop on one arm, I had my iPad on the other arm, and I had my phone in my hand. And I got like my Twitter here, my one message board here. I got my other, I'm updating this stuff like I'm really in the know. And I don't know nothing. But I'm just updating this and refreshing this over and over and over. I'm sitting there studying on it. And we only had one kid at the time. And my wife was trying to talk to me. She was on the couch over beside me. And I was giving her the old classic, But I'm studying this. This is what I'm on, right? I'm distracted. So finally, it led to a little argument. Now, this is going to surprise a lot of you in here, but me and my wife had to have arguments before, okay? We've argued, And if you think that because you're in a good relationship that you'll never argue, you're wrong. You will. Everybody will argue at some point. It happens. It's just life. You'll get through it. It's over. It's fine. You'll come through better on the other side. But what made me realize that night was something that she said to me, and something that kind of made me think. She wanted to focus on her. She wanted me to focus on what she was saying. And I wasn't. I was focused about half of what she was saying. I wasn't. And what she said kind of made me think. She said, how will you even know what I'm trying to talk to you about? How will you know me or anything that I'm trying to do if you don't focus on me, you don't listen to me, and you don't give me all of your attention when I'm here? And she was right. There was no way that I could know exactly what she was saying to me. And there was no way I could know exactly what she wanted or how to serve her or how she could serve me. Now, I'm sure I probably got mad and said, I'm doing this for us, and I'm helping out here, and I'm doing this. And I started naming off all these things I was doing to try to justify, not giving her that. But it didn't matter. Didn't matter. None of that stuff mattered at the end of the day. All that mattered was giving her the attention she needed when she needed it, or her giving me the attention when I needed it. And it's the same thing with God. We have to give Him the attention fully, totally, 100% if we want Him to know us. But we can't do it halfway. There was a lady, good lady, at the church right now, actually. And I'm big on Testify. And y'all know what Testify is. Everybody in here, we're all homegrown folks, so y'all know what Testify is. But I'm big on Testify. I think it's one of the best programs we've got at the church because it gives kids the opportunity to see what's been put into their heads for all these years about serving and discipleship and going out and ministering into practice. It gives them opportunities to go out and actually do it. It gives them the opportunity, like we talked about at the very first point, to just quit talking about it in a Sunday school class and actually go out and do it. There was a lady, and there was another lady talking to her. Kid was coming up into the youth group, and asked her, said, is your kid going to be in Testify? And she said, no. I said, why not? Well, the kid goes in Testify, they want too much of their time. They want too much of their time, and it interrupts the other things that they're doing. They only want to do it when it's convenient for them to do it. And what she's missed on is that she's walking down the fine line of teaching her kids how to walk down the wide path and not down the narrow path. Because she's teaching her kid that the convenience of Jesus is great when nothing else is available. And if you want to be a real follower of Jesus, there's one way to go, 100%. Nowhere in the Bible does it talk about Jesus in moderation, or Jesus half the time, or Jesus when it feels good, or when it's raining, or when it's boring at home, or when it's wintertime and there's nothing else going on. Jesus is 100% of the time, or 0% of the time. The church at Laodicea, you hear it in Revelation, it talks about being a lukewarm Christian. And that's what so many of us struggle with right now, is just that very fact. We have so many people that are so committed for about 30% of the time, or 40% of the time, or 50%, or even if you can get up good, about 80%. But we need people that are committed 100% of the time. And that's a difficult thing to say, and I know it is, and I'm not going to sit here and try to sugarcoat it. There's a lot of people out here that are going the other direction. But in this small group, and in these people that we have in here, we have an opportunity. As we come to the close of these 7 messages of defining a relationship from being a fan of Jesus to a follower of Jesus, that's the question I have for you. Do you know Jesus, and does Jesus know you? Does Jesus know your heart intimately? Does He know your heart because you have spent that time with Him over and over and over, coming to Him, committing to Him, listening to Him, and speaking with Him? Because that's what it takes. Following Jesus is not easy. Following Jesus is not a simple decision. The second message that Ryan talked about was a price tag. It comes with a price. You're going to have to give something else up. But going through life with the idea that you can have Jesus when it's good for you is going to lead you down the wide road. And it's going in the direction that's opposite of where you need to be going. So that's the challenge. You got 2 weeks before we're back in here again. We're off next week because we got Youth VBS. Everybody's welcome, I assume. Right? Sure, good. I don't know where we're at Tuesday night. Halters?
No.
Renfro?
We will be at the Renfro.
Renfro. Okay, Renfro. So you got 2 weeks. The week after that, we're back in here. And we're going to start the second half of this book, which is the invitation to follow, where we're going to really get into and really dig deep into following Jesus. So the challenge over the next couple of weeks is, when you're sitting in your car for that 5 minutes at the red light when nothing's going on, or when you're at home for a few minutes when nobody else is around, or if you get up early and you got a quiet time, or late at night when you've got a quiet time, or if you got a lunch break where you get 10 minutes off, whatever. Think about that question. Do I know Jesus, and does He know me? And is there an area in my life that I've held back? Or if there's something that I haven't confessed? Is there something that I haven't committed? Is there something that's just holding me back from being that 100% all-in committed follower of Jesus?